Vancouver. The Canucks have yet to win in 6 tries, 0-4-2, the only winless team in the league right now. They're also the first team to blow multiple goal leads and lose 4 straight games, a new NHL record. Team had a players-only meeting after just 3 games. And their own coach, Bruce Boudreau, said his team looked, quote, afraid to win and mentally weak, and that we're being way too cute. The penalty kill is less than 50%. They've allowed 7 goals on 13 power plays. 27 goals allowed is the second worst. And then the other night, their home opener, I don't think I've ever seen this before, because at a home opener, they got booed for the last 5 minutes of it, and then they tossed jerseys on the ice. Just an awful scene for a home opener. And then after that, GM Jim Rutherford went on. He said it was hard to watch and that the team structure isn't good. They had a bad camp, and we may very well be in a rebuild in the direction we're going.
Bro, he was on after hours, after the home opener.
Nuts. Yeah.
Which, guys,
I was watching that live.
For you American listeners, this isn't like a 2-minute in and out. This is a good 15 minute conversation. And Ari, I think that you just mentioned it. The one thing that stuck out was like, we didn't have a good training camp. It's like, you didn't have a good training camp. Like, holy shit. After, a season like last year and with all these young guns and expectations, like, you think that you would come in and, I mean, I'll tell you what, like, yeah, maybe Philly isn't there and they're having some breakdowns, but I tell you what, they were ready from puck drop to win some hockey games because you knew they had a fucking training camp where they were going to be alert and attentive, and minor details to the game were going to be paid attention to. And playing a certain style is all cute and dandy if you got all these skilled players. But guys, if you ain't paying attention to the details of the game, you're going to get fucking bent over at this level. You could also blame the fact that we talked about it in the previews, that their back end is a little bit banged up and they don't have, but guess what? So is Florida's. And I see the way that their skill forwards fucking compete and play and make it work and make sure that they're relieving pressure off of that, along with good goaltending, which Vancouver has as well. They're fucking making it work. I don't give a shit about what excuses you have. The time is now, man. You keep hearing about, I also mentioned, I thought that they rushed the rebuild. Mind you, they did get their best player out of it, but and now apparently, I don't know if you read this, with the fucking, they're harassing him at the pumpkin patch, JT Miller. That's what it's like playing in Canada, man. The sky's falling right now. I don't know if there's any truth to this story, but he's trying to get away with his family. I could only imagine the vessel, the brain vein that would pop in your forehead with if you're at the, in Edmonton at the pumpkin patch with your family, and all of a sudden some guy comes grilling you about you snapping around the power play. Poof. You might fucking smash a pumpkin off his head.
I'll tell you, yeah, then he'd probably be a lefty and pump my eyes shut and get beat up by a fan and be -8 through 4 games. Let me say this, though, about Vancouver. The most alarming thing is people throwing each other under the bus already.
Gross.
We got Rutherford, who, without saying it, basically said Bruce Boudreau is a horrible coach. What are those comments? We had a horrible camp. He said we play with no structure. Or we need some sort of structure. We need better structure. Then Boudreau's saying how unprofessional the players are. It's just passing the buck, passing the blame. And it's amazing to see, because I picked this fucking team to be top 3 in the Pacific, for Christ's sake. What was I thinking? They suck. And there were expectations because of the record being that good when Boudreau took over last year, but it was kind of evident in the summer when they were possibly they didn't give him a extension. They didn't give Boudreau an extension. They were calling around, looking around for a possible other coach. No, we're going to stick with Boudreau. And then 5 games in, you're carving the camp, you're carving the preparation as the president, and then the coach is carving the players, and it's just like, holy shit. But I'll say this, I hate Vancouver Canucks fans, one of the worst group of people in the world, but I feel so bad for these players. And the reason is, like, I was in Edmonton for all these years when we sucked, and it sucks. It is so brutal to lose in pro sports. It's brutal to be on a college team and to be losing, let alone in Canada, in the NHL. It's like, so you mentioned the possibility, whether it's true or fake, of JT Miller getting abused by fans at the pumpkin patch, looking for a hayride for his son. And you just think back to the days of eating a steak and just being told how much I suck at Earl's in Edmonton. I'm at the West Edmonton Mall looking to get a new pair of kicks at Aldo. Can you fucking leave me alone, please? Right. And it's not fair to the players, but at the same time, That's what it is. It's pro sports. You make a lot of money and people are going to say what they want to say and they're going to chuck jerseys on the ice. But for JT Miller to sign this summer and then have the quote today, they could throw their shit on the ice if they want to. It's such a toxic environment there right now. And it's so early in the season. Boys, they got Carolina tonight.
I know.
They haven't won a game, and they're playing one of the best teams in the league.
Yeah.
So what's going to happen in this game, and how long can it continue to have Boudreau there or to have this core there? I mean, when Rutherford says maybe we're going to end up being in a rebuild with how we look right now, there's just, as a fan of the Canucks, you're just like, what is going on? How is this happening this early in the season? And to be that separate and to be that off base with each other as terms of the president and the coach and then the players, and having a players only meeting 3 games in. Now, I will say before I turn it over to RA or whatever, the only bright side may be they had 2-goal leads in the first 4 games. So there was times they were playing well. Yeah. And even Boudreau mentioned in the Buffalo drubbing that they played amazing in the second period. They're down 2-1, and then they get outscored 3-0 in the third. So I think 2 of them were empty netters, but they have played some decent hockey in stretches. It's just not been able to finish a game. But for me, it's looking at the passing the block and playing the blame game. That is what's scary when you look at an entire organization and team.
And I think that it was the 2-goal lead thing that would drive a fan to be mad enough to attack JT Miller at the end of the hay maze. Now, some of you fans might say, you have the right to do that because of the amount of money he's making. And others will say that I think that the person who met him at the end of the hay maze deserves to be behind bars. So I think we can move on from the Canucks. I think we've gave him enough of a tongue lashing. Now, do you guys think that a possibility of changing coaches, like, do you think that could happen this soon in the season? You mentioned they're playing Carolina. They're playing a Carolina team who just lost on the road to
Edmonton and Calgary, right?
And Calgary. They're
gonna trump them.
So like they're like Rod the Bod had a 5:30 a.m. wake up and he was licking his chops. He probably had a steak for lunch. And that's it. And he's salivating at the opportunity to bend this Vancouver.
I wonder if last year there was even a time when Carolina lost 3 games in a row. They were that consistent. So good luck, Vancouver.
And then on top of that, let's say that's a loss. The next one is against a rival, the Kraken, and that stupid buoy troll, their mascot, who cost them the game against St. Louis.
With your nose.
He was glass banging right before the goal started. That's karma, buoy. You're welcome for getting you verified on Twitter. All right. Have you been paying attention to this Vancouver team? Like, is that as big of a under the bus drumming by coach and GM you've seen?
But it all seems to go down to the players, because Bruce said after that same game, it just looked like there was very little effort. And as far as the coaching question you just brought up is, Bruce got there before Rutherford did. He asked for an extension after Rutherford took the job. Rutherford did not give him an extension. So he's essentially a lame duck coach right now. I don't think he's going to be sticking around for the whole season at this point. I can't imagine that they're going to. We all know GMs want their own coach. It's just a clusterfuck. Why hire a coach then bring in a new GM when it creates this exact scenario? So, I'm sure they'll give it another 8 to 10 games and see if they get their ass in gear. And if not, they'll probably make a move here.
By the way, if I'm Bo Horvat, who is just a gamer, right? You could call out the captain of this team with how things are going, but this guy is a consistent goal scorer, tough to play against, and he's a UFA. I am never even considering signing there. Look at JT Miller's got about fucking 9 years left.
No,
look at this team.
Horvat,
get me out of here.
JT Miller's out of there in 13 months. I said if he lasts 2 seasons, I'd be shocked.
I know, but it's a big salary.
I know Cap's going to jump up $4.5 million once. What they say?
Sciatica gets better.
Once the HHR gets back to even, they're going to bump it up potentially $4.5 million next year. That's a big rise. So I don't know. I think that was pretty much it on Vancouver.
Yeah, just another note. JT Miller following up on that. If you see a guy out with his family, just leave him alone, man. Like family, kids, whatever. Just go. If you don't see him again, too bad. But don't bother people with their family, especially when the team's doing shitty and then giving the players shit. Just knock that shit off. Whatever. Do
you think Bruce is still doing cameos right now? That might be a tough look if Rutherford sees that he's doing cameos.
Oh, shit. This is a wild stat.
Rutherford does a cameo to fire him. Hey, Bruce, this is Jim here. You're fired.
Wait a minute. That sounds like a job I have.
Is this real?
Bruce Boudreau's Cameo account is temporarily unavailable, so it looks like he has disabled data.
Come on, just a couple losses, man. People want to see you.